Welcome back to GMT. Where have all the insects gone? Some alarming research to bring you now from scientists in Germany who have said there's been a drop in the number of butterflies, bees and moths. It's not just any drop, down more than 3/4 in 30 years. Well, with me here is our science correspondent, Helen Briggs. Helen, down 3/4 in 30 years. That genuinely is alarming, isn't it?
I spoke to the scientists about this yesterday and they were genuinely shocked about this finding, and we've suspected it for a while. There's been anecdotal evidence, and this is known as the windscreen phenomenon, the idea that when you're driving and you stop the car, there's fewer insects splattered over the windscreen than there used to be. But there's been very little testing of the insect population as a whole, and this study took place in Germany. They've been painstakingly monitoring flying insects, collecting them, measuring their weight over the course of 30 years, and came up with this decline of 3/4, which is alarming.
It sounds a bit obvious to say, but we should remind people, insects, are they not, an integral part of life and how the life cycle works?
They are, absolutely. They don't have too many fans, sometimes insects, but they are incredibly essential. So they're food for birds, for bats, for amphibians, for reptiles. They play an incredibly important role in pollination. And if you lose your insects, then it affects the whole ecosystems that they're living in. So scientists really say we've got to do some more monitoring. We know about certain species of insect in decline, say butterflies, and we know about very rare insects. But this is large-scale monitoring of all the flying insects, which is most insects, actually.
And Helen, why is this happening?
Well, they looked in nature reserves, so that's why it's even more alarming, because it's in nature reserves where they should be protected. So they could rule out some things from the data they had. So they looked at habitat, they looked at weather, they looked at land use, and they found that these weren't having an effect. So actually the scientists genuinely say that they're scratching their heads about the causes of this. Of course, there are some factors that probably come in here, links between intensification of agriculture and pesticides, but they're saying that in the meantime we have to do all we can to protect insects. So things we know work, like flower strips around farms, as many wildflowers as possible on road verges in cities, and some schemes that are going to actually move insects into areas where they've been lost. So that needs to be done.
And Helen, where did they carry out this research? Was it just in Germany? Because I wonder if they're saying this is happening everywhere or if it's specific to Europe. Perhaps.
It was 63 nature reserves in Germany over quite a large area, and so they only looked in that specific area. But the scientists themselves are saying that they do think this will apply elsewhere, certainly in the same sorts of habitats as the ones they looked at in Germany. So it probably does occur in lots of other places, certainly in Europe, but more research needs to be done globally to find out the picture.
Okay, Helen, thanks for joining us. I saw one scientist saying it's like ecological Armageddon, which is a really strong statement for a scientist to use. Thank you for joining us. President Trump has found himself at the centre of a deepening controversy about his treatment of the widow of a fallen soldier. The mother of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson has backed a Democratic Congresswoman's claim that Mr. Trump displayed insensitivity when he phoned to offer his condolences. The president has flatly denied the claim, though. Here's Gary O'Donoghue.